Welcome to the age of SaaS, where churn, lifetime value, and cost to acquire are top of mind, and acronyms like MRR, ARR, and ACV are being tossed around like a beach ball at a concert. So how do SaaS leaders motivate, measure, and maintain momentum? We're picking them up on their way to SaaS North and asking them the questions you want to know in Leaders in Lyfts Getting Lattes.
Okay, welcome to Leaders in Lyft Getting Lattes. And it's a little late in the day, so we skipped the latte. We do have water, though. We're at the Ottawa airport, heading downtown, getting ready for the big SaaS North conference starting tomorrow. And as part of this adventure of the SaaS North, we've decided as a local group to have leaders give their advice as we bring them into the conference. So my cameraman here, Alan Willie, who's the organizing brains behind SaaSOttawa Meetup, and I joined him in organizing this along with Lauren Thibodeau, and we started this with our trusty Lyft driver, Kareem.
Hello, Kareem.
Hi.
And of course, the star of our this particular episode is Paul.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Alan. This is great. Excited.
So, you have a very interesting background, being part of the executive team on Eloqua and taking them public and being acquired by Oracle and going through all that. And then you're crazy enough to start your own company, like many of us.
Yeah, just crazy enough to try it a second time. That's right.
So we thought we'd just ask you a number of questions. It's obviously an informal process here. So the first question I was going to ask you is, how do you start your day? Do you have a routine? Is it Red Bull and yoga, or what is it?
You know, unlike the first startup with Eloqua, I'm a little older. I've got kids, so I have to start my day pretty early to get a couple things going. So I get up at around 5:30, 5:45, have a cup of coffee, check some email, and then every single day I got to run in before I go to work. And it's probably 75% mental,
yes,
25% physical, just to clear the brain. And that's how I start my day.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm a big believer in exercise as well. Big believer. So what's something that most people don't know about you they wouldn't get by reading up your profile on LinkedIn?
I was part of the Glee Club in high school, and that's why I was terrified when you asked me about this. It was going to be like a SaaS startup North carpool karaoke or something. But yeah, no, I was part of a Glee Club in high school. And it was good. It was good fun.
Excellent. You don't sing anymore, though?
Oh, no. No, only in karaoke nights with the team when it's very dark.
So was Nudge your first startup?
No, Nudge.
Were you founded?
No, I was part of the co-founding team at Eloqua.
Okay.
So we started that in 1999, early 2000, when there was no real startups. And that's what's so incredible coming to SaaS North, to see how much the ecosystem's changed.
Yes.
And then I founded Nudge with Steve Woods, the same guy I did Eloqua with, in 2014.
Excellent. And where'd the idea come from?
I think the idea came, so Eloqua was a marketing automation platform, and we ended up working with marketers for 14 years. And I think at the same time, we got a chance to work with a lot of sales leaders. And so what we realized was, despite all the automation that was happening, there was going to be a real return back to understanding relationships and how they affect sales and growth. And we wanted to build Nudge around better understanding those relationships. How do you build them, and how do you make sure that you can use them to drive growth in your business?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the things that I noticed about Nudge the first time I saw it, and it really struck me, was the fact that we are so connected nowadays that we have way more relationships than ever before, but they're not all the same strength.
That's right.
Right, and this idea of wanting to nurture certain ones that are important. And with that sea of noise you have out there of all those relationships, like the thousands you may have LinkedIn profiles to, but are not real relationships.
Yeah, I think today LinkedIn Connected isn't really connected, but it's still an incredible platform. I think though the relationships that matter most, it's hard to keep track of them all the time, and you want to make sure that you have something to help you do that. And as a sales professional especially, you want to make sure you're getting the right relationships with the decision makers, with the champions, and make sure that they help you close the deal.
Exactly. So your experience with Eloqua, going public, being acquired, being part of a big company, does that help you in this second go around?
Absolutely, but it probably doesn't help as much as people think. Number one, it helps get capital. It helps not be crazy and freaked out at all moments in time in startups.
You know the roller coaster.
Well, you know it's going to be a ride, and you have to really stay determined. Second is that, the third is that we know when to ask for help. I think the first time around, a lot of founders, they just try and figure everything out on their own, and they bang their head against the wall 20 times. And today, I just know, I can't figure this out. I got to find help, and I know who to ask. And I think that's the biggest difference.
Excellent advice. What is the best business advice you received?
The best business advice I ever received was a guy named Alec Christich, who was the GM of Rogers at Home way back when. And he said to me, if you put your employees first, above even customers and investors and shareholders, the rest will get taken care of. It really means you put a really strong hiring practice in place to get the right people. But that was the best advice I've ever gotten.
That is excellent.
So I'll add that I've heard that as well, and I completely subscribe to that. Happy employees, happy customers.
That's right.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent advice for everybody out there. What's the worst advice?
Oh my God, I've gotten lots of terrible advice before. I think one of them was, as an early founder, was that take on as much debt as humanly possible and don't dilute your company. I think learning that the hard way this time at Nudge, we were fine to take on equity partners and understand that the value they can bring, the right venture partner can bring, and not try and load up on debt, which can crush you when you're trying to get around it.
Absolutely. What surprised you most about being a founder, both the first time and this time?
I'm going to say this is a little cliche, and even for someone like me who's had a successful first exit, it is lonely sometimes being, especially founder and CEO. And I actually, for a long time, was part of a founders forum to really help with some of that. And I think what you really forget is that there's this interesting exercise where you sort of list like something personal, something about your family, and something about work. And what you quickly realize is that your personal update is actually about family, your family's about work, and work is about work. And so there's nothing personal that you do at all in your life. And it gets pretty lonely.
Yes. Yeah. That's what I definitely found was the importance of finding a good founder group to be part of. I just can't emphasize it enough how absolutely critical that is, right? Because you can't talk to there's certain things you can't talk to your employees about. You can't talk to your investors about directly, right? But people that are in the same position, you can share that, pain and what you're sometimes, and half the battle is the emotional side, right?
Yeah, and I also think there's always, as a founder, you always, and this is for not just CEO founders, but founders, you always think there's one more thing I could do to help push the business forward, and do I do that, or do I go to sleep, or do I do something else? And so there's that constant pressure.
Yeah. So can you share something that at the time felt like a disaster, really big issue that was, or miss that ended up being a good lesson?
Well, at Eloqua, I'll talk about that first. When we were filed to go public it would have been August 2011, we got slapped with a $100 million patent lawsuit that was going to go to jury trial. And it was a pretty intense process. I don't know if you've ever been deposed before, but I was deposed. And I will say that at the time we thought that all was lost, because if you're going to try and go public and you have a $100 million patent lawsuit, you really can't go public. So quite a bit of money to be taken out of the company. But at the end of the day, we continue to focus on the business despite this looming thing that was over us. And at the last moment, it got settled, and we went public 2 weeks later.
Whoa.
Yeah, we had $200,000 in the bank when we went public because it had gone on so long.
Whoa.
Yeah, for a $90 million business, that's not very much in the bank, by the way.
And what's the big lesson there? Stay focused.
The lesson is no matter what is going on in your business, if you can focus on still driving growth and driving it and operating it, it is core to keep it on the rails, because time changes lots of different things. Things can change. If something's going really wrong, if you take your eye off the ball on growth, I think it's still a problem.
Yeah. Excellent. Getting back to advice a bit, what's your favorite business book?
Mine's a classic. I don't read a ton of business books like everyone. I mean, I do read some, but my favorite is still Good to Great, and it's the chapter on level 5 leadership. That's my favorite, where it talks about what a true transformational leader looks like, and it's not the sort of all the glamorous, loud, brash talking leader you think. It's actually a more humble, determined, quiet, focused leader that really drives the business. And I always try and figure out how to. I reread that chapter actually once in a while just to recenter myself.
Excellent. What other sources do you use for business advice?
You know, I listen a lot to people I talk with. I love connecting with other founders or other people, especially if they've gotten further on the journey. I'm very open to ideas from them. I do read blogs and listen to podcasts, whether it's like even from the VC side, like 20-minute VC, or it could be, there's an interesting one that was just out on startups called, from Jason Lemkin, from SaaSOttawa, and that was good. And just whatever I see. I kind of use Twitter as a way of kind of filtering down some interesting stuff that's going on from a news perspective.
I know. I mean, Twitter's that love-hate relationship, right? Because on the one hand, there's so much vitriol in there that's bad, but from a curated list, you get the right people to follow. It's an excellent source of material,
yes,
right?
Yes, news is good for it, and then also LinkedIn, of course, is great for finding great content.
Exactly. So the last question I have for you, second for last actually, what personal challenges have you set for the coming 2020? The year of hindsight, right?
I think for me, when you say personal, I assume it still means work.
Like you said before, right?
Yeah,
it can be personal or work. It doesn't matter. But.
I spent a lot of 2019 internally. We were growing the sales team. So I was doing a lot more operational things, and I think as a CEO, I need to get out there more in the ecosystem. I was just at Dreamforce last week. I'm at SaaS North this week, so I've already started this. How do I get more out of the office, in front of customers, talking with people, working with partners? I think for 2020, I'm going to spend more time doing that than I did in 2019.
Excellent. So the last question I have is, what question should I have asked you? Is there anything that I should have asked you?
I don't know. I think you covered a lot of good stuff. I think maybe the only one I would say is, how do you think about, what's the number one thing you would do differently if you were growing, a business?
Yeah.
And I think for me, Eloqua, we had to be profitable because in 2001 the bubble burst, and it built a certain amount of discipline around urgency and not having that much oxygen, so you did everything as quickly and fast as possible. And I would say with Nudge, we're still doing well, but since we raised a lot of capital, yes, you try and drive urgency, but it's not quite as heightened as when you really are paying every single dime out of the money you bring in. And so I think if I had to redo Nudge again, I would try and create more urgency as the CEO through different mechanisms. Even though you still need the capital. But.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I hear you. That sense of my first company, we did it organically, growing it, right, and kept thinking, and we were able to do that. But man, and it does drive urgency, right?
Oh yeah.
But when things like 9/11 happen and things like that to your industry, that's when you wish you had a little bit of an investment in the bank as well, right?
Yeah, no, having capital is essential, especially for getting great people. But as a CEO, I think you need to find a way to create immovable dates and a more general urgency focus within the business, because capital can sort of mask that for a while. Yeah,
and the most expensive thing there is time, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the most expensive. It's way more expensive than capital, more expensive than anything else is time. That's why the urgency, I think, is so critical. Ellen, anything you want to add?
I think this has been great. I'm sort of going through all these questions. I love the level 5 leadership, and there's so many things about urgency and sort of the respect for the capital or the money that you have in the bank. I've lived many of these things as well. So good job, Brad. Good job, Paul.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited for the conference.
Thanks. Looking forward to it. Thanks a lot, Paul. That was great.